Hey Luke, Paul Gutierrez here from ESPN.com. Number one, what about the Raiders and this job in particular appealed to you to want to come and take this job? And also, secondly, I know it's really early, but what about the news of Jimmy Garoppolo and the suspension and most likely not being here? How does that affect what you may want to do going forward?
Yeah, that second part I'm not familiar with just yet. But you would talk about this organization and the history of this organization. I've been fortunate to be a part of two other organizations that have that tradition and history, and it's just something that like resonates in me. I grew up in Pittsburgh, so obviously as growing up and the Steeler Raider rivalry and all the cool stuff that's happened between these two organizations. So there's just always been a really cool respect that I've always had for the Raiders growing up. So that's the starting point, the why you ever would want to be in the silver and black. And then you get the opportunity to get here, and I came on the interview and got to not just meet AP, but everybody in this building. Something that's really important to me are the people. Like everywhere I've been, I've really tried to connect to everybody in the building, not just stick on that football side. And I love the flow of this new building and how you're able to do that. You're able to be a part of all this thing because we're in this together. Like this isn't just about me or one player or anything. This is the entire organization going to win. And I just think it's really cool how they set this thing up to where we can all connect. And it was obvious as soon as I walked in the building how important this family atmosphere is, and so I was really drawn to it.
Hey, Luke, congratulations. Had you met Antonio before this process? And in the interview process, what was your guys' combined vision of the offense, how it's going to look, and what do you guys want to accomplish on that side of the ball?
I had not met AP prior to that interview. But it was evident, like I said, when I walked in, and the energy, the enthusiasm that he brings to work every single day was just something I was attracted to right away. And then, as you talk about the vision of the offense, I mean, you always have to play into the players that you have, and your best players got to be the ones shining on Sunday. And so it's always about finding what everybody does best, and finding cool and unique ways to emphasize every week, and we're always going to start with top down the mentality that we're going to bring. I mean, that's going to be evident. I use that phrase. We want as an offense, we want everyone to feel our film. We don't just want them to see it, and like that's going to be a big part of it. And I think that's where AP and I really hit off.
Coach Q Myers from Raider Nation Radio 920. Congratulations. Wanted to know what you learned from your experiences in Chicago as a first-time play caller for those 2 years and what you could take from those experiences and bring them to Las Vegas with the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, experience is like the best thing you can get, right? We talk about with quarterbacks all the time. Like you getting on that game film, there's nothing like it, and that game experience gives you the most to grow from. And it's the same thing with me. Every game I found my way. I found my way to get through the process a little bit cleaner each and every week. And from season 1 to season 2, and the way that we were able to help those guys. In season 2, the guys like DJ and Cole have the best seasons of their career. Like that's something that was a really cool thing that we were able to do and continue to grow there. And like it's always about getting better every single day, right? So whether it's in the upstairs as an offensive staff or whether it's when you're with your players, everything is always about getting better every single day. And being able to stick to that and hold true to that was something that I was really proud of.
Luke, Hondo Carpenter from Sports Illustrated. I echo my colleague's sentiments of congratulations. In talking to Davante last week, he talked about they came to him, they talked to him. I'm just curious about that relationship with Davante, how special it is to have him as any weapon in whatever offense you run, but he specifically mentioned the West Coast.
Yeah, I mean that's Davante entered the world in Green Bay. That was how I was raised in this business, in that Mike McCarthy West Coast style, and obviously there's the West Coast is a general term now. There's all these different flavors of it that everyone has kind of taken run with, and I think we'll have our own as well. And but when you're working with a guy like Davante, I walked into a room as a young receivers coach and was really able to connect to him really quickly. I saw, he's in the middle of a room with Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson, who were at the peaks of their career and accomplishing all these things, and had been to Pro Bowls, and Davante, he aspired to do that and more, and we were able to connect really well, and our relationship was such that, I walked in, I'm a quarterback guy walking into the receiver room, and hopefully that those guys felt that I kind of brought that element to that room, so hopefully they're, bringing that football IQ up a different way, even the quarterback, through the quarterback's eyes, I think is really important, and I think that, you're talking about one of the most spatial aware people I've ever been around, and someone who's able to take information and make the most of it, and that's Tay. That 16 season was really kind of the beginning of when he was ready to take off as a pro.
Luke, this is Pat at the Chicago Sun-Times. How are you?
What's going on, buddy?
It's good to see you. And I'm curious, you lived this here the last couple of years with the questions about Justin and what he can and can't do. How is he different now than he was when you got here, when you got to Chicago? And what do you think his future can be, whether it's with the Bears or somebody else?
No, tremendous growth for Justin. I told you, like I've said when I was there, he's one of the best human beings I've ever got to work with. It's just the mentality that he brought every day, the consistent approach, the kind of man that he is. Just really, it was a blessing to work with him. And, he was someone that just came to work every day to get better and better. And I think he'll continue to do so.
Coach Mark Anderson, AP. Obviously, you've had a lot of success running the ball in Chicago. Do you envision that kind of approach here, or would you rather see more balanced offense?
No, hey, we're all about winning here, right? That's whatever it takes to win, and whether that's some weeks you got to run it more, and some weeks you got to throw it more, whatever it takes. I think it's all about playing into the players that you have, and trying to get them to do the things that they do really well. And so whatever that looks like, we'll find out here this fall. But we'll take this off season to go ahead and figure out exactly what that is.
Hi, Coach. Heidi Fang, Las Vegas Review-Journal. I'm curious that Antonio Pierce had said he was impressed with your offensive scheme when the Raiders faced the Bears this season. How did that conversation go with you two when you were going through the process of coming to the Raiders?
No, yeah, that was a part of it. I think there was a part of the interview, where we sat and we all watched that game, and we talked about the whys and what we were doing and how we were doing it, and I think all that stuff was resonated with them, and I think they kind of talked about how, we kind of exposed a few things that helped them turn into the defense that they turned into. I think, the success that we had here last year was, from that point on was a little bit because of that, and we had some success, and we had the young kid playing quarterback, and so we were, that element of it too was a different dynamic, having a new guy come in and playing the game just a little bit different as well.
Yeah, let's get right to it. What are your impressions of this year's quarterback draft class?
Yeah, it's obviously an impressive one, right? I think there's a lot of different flavors, and I think it'll be. I'm going to have a lot of fun diving into it. I haven't gotten to that point where I could give you the evaluation on each guy, but I think that watching from afar as watching that college football season, I think that this is a pretty cool year. There's a lot of different styles of guys and a lot of success that they had in college. So I'm excited to get down into that stuff.
What you kind of on the same vein, Luke? What kind of quarterback skill set fits best in the kind of offense you want to run that you envision?
Yeah, there's not one in particular, man. I think anytime that you can get as many good players on your football team as possible, you can't. I don't think it ever helps anybody to box yourself into a corner with it. They have to be this exact thing. I mean, I think you got to play into the players that you have and the things that they do really well. And I think that's what's cool about this draft. Like we talked about, there's a lot of different types of guys, and it's about who could do things, to the level that's a difference maker, right? You try to get as many dynamic guys on your team as you can, and I wouldn't ever want to box myself into a corner with one particular style.
Luke, I'm curious what your last month has been like. Do you sit down and think what you would do the same, what you would do differently? And I'm sure those questions are asked of you as you're interviewing for jobs. How do you kind of take a look at what you guys did holistically with the Bears and then present a plan going forward based on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's something that I do in my life with pretty much everything. You go do something, and then you have to reflect on it, and then you have to grow from it, and try to do better, whether how good it was or how maybe not so good it was. And so, of course, there was time for reflection, but the competitive spirit in me, like was getting right back into it and ready to rock and roll. And I took this opportunity to, I interviewed a lot of places to meet as many people as I could, and it was a really cool experience. And this was this was just an incredible opportunity here that I was really excited about because of, one, the organization that it is, and then two, the people in the building were just incredible.
Vinny, Hondo, and Q.
Luke, Vinny Boston with the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Welcome to Las Vegas. Looking at
Thank you, man.
Your guys' numbers from last year, Cole Kmet, young tight end, was featured pretty prominently in your offense. The Raiders have a young tight end in Michael Mayer, and I'm sure you dug into him a little bit last year coming into the draft. What are your, what are your impressions of Michael Mayer and how he could fit in your offense?
Yeah, I think the cool thing about him is that a little bit like Cole, he's a cool blend at tight end. He can do a little bit of everything, right? Anytime that you're evaluating players, you're trying to see how diverse they can be. The flexibility for a player just allows you to be more dynamic as an offense, and I think that's what's really exciting about working with Michael.
Luke, I'm curious. Obviously, the Raiders are going to need to add a quarterback, whether it's free agency or draft. But Aiden O'Connell is in house and a guy that AP installed when he took over as interim. What's your initial thoughts on Aiden O'Connell, please?
Yeah, I think anytime you have a young guy like that could come in and play as well as he did, without getting to know him yet well enough, I think it just speaks volumes of the type of guy that he is. Without even knowing him or talking to him about anything yet, I could tell you right now that guy's got to be someone that prepares his butt off and is a great teammate. I mean, for the guys to rally around him the way that I saw from the outside looking in, and for him to go to perform the way that he did in the end of that season, that just speaks volumes. So I'm excited to get to know him, excited to work with him for sure.
Coach, you've worked with a quarterback that has the athletic ability to get out of the pocket at any time and pick up some big yards with his legs. You've also worked with quarterbacks that can stand in the pocket and just throw the ball around the yard. Can you give us the kind of pros and cons, and is there a preference that you have?
Well, I kind of like anything. You'd like everything to have. You'd like to have a little bit of everything, right? And I think, in this game, I think it's really important that you have some type of escapability. Doesn't mean you have to be as dynamic as Justin was, but I think you have to have escapability. You got to be able to have the second chance and create the extended play, whether it's just slide in the pocket or whether it's extending it with your feet outside the pocket. So all those things are really important. It was on display in the Super Bowl, as we just saw here in Vegas the other day. That ability of both of those guys to create the second chance of the play is an important part in our league. And when you're trying to go win games, you got to be good on third down and in the red zone. And when you're good at those two things, it's usually because your quarterback has some kind of cool dynamic to be able to spit the ball around. Which we were pretty good at that thing the last 2 years.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Thanks for your time.